Hello everybody and welcome to another Top 5 Wednesday. This is going to be going up a teensy bit late because I could only film it late today on Wednesday, so it'll go up on Thursday. I apologize, but it is still technically Wednesday, so whatever. This week's topic was an absolute favorite of mine. I know I say that all the time, but I'm going to say it again. Lainey's a genius. These topics she comes up with, just fabulous. This week's topic is your top 5 favorite last lines of a novel. And for me this is so great because I'm always harping on how the ending is paramount, and so last lines are usually some of my favorite parts of a book. And I think it pairs well with the fact that we did opening lines. So last lines are important. Again, this list is pretty much arbitrary. No real, hullabaloo about what is in which position. Yeah, let's just get to the list. Oh, I should note before we continue, just in case, I guess these are technically spoilers because they're all last lines, so yeah, I'll leave a list of the books down below in case you just don't want to be spoiled. Number 5 on this list is the last line of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. The last line of this is actually pretty long, and it's one I hadn't ever really thought about till I went back and was studying this book, I think for like the second time for school. But yes, the last line is, I lingered round them under that benign sky, watched the moths fluttering along the heath and the harebells, listened to the soft wind breathing through the grass, and wondered how anyone could ever imagine unquiet slumbers for the sleepers in that quiet earth. That last line is spoken by Mr. Lockwood, who's actually the one of the two narrators of the story. He's the one who hears the whole story about Kathy and Catherine and Heathcliff and Linton and all that. And he's referring to the graves of Heathcliff and the original kind of love triangle that occurs in the story. And I think it's just a really lovely line, because I think for a book that's so full of emotional turmoil and turbulence, especially with those characters, it's nice that someone imagines peace for them at the end. Number 4 on this list is the last line of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I obviously do not have the copy here with me. I lent it to my brother so he could see it. So he still has his paws on it, or else I'd be holding it up here for you. But this is a very, very famous last line, and you know, everybody knows it. So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past. It's kind of crazy that that's such a beautiful line, but it also so perfectly encapsulates the idea that for people who can't let go of the past, we're pretty much always going against a current, that you're just fighting something that's so inevitably gonna beat you, and you can't live in the past. And that's the tragic lesson that obviously Gatsby learns in the story. Number 3 on this list is the last line of The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I read it just a couple months ago. I believe I read it back in February. I don't remember. I really fell in love with this book, and I thought it had a really, really lovely last line, which perfectly summed up the whole feeling of the magical realism of the novel. You are no longer quite certain which side of the fence is the dream. Like I said, this book is all magical realism, and the whole idea of the circus is that it sucks you in and sort of makes you forget what is or isn't real, because you're not entirely sure. Because the beauty of this circus, le cirque du rêve, is that everything is real, and they're making you think it's fake while at the same time making you think it's real while you think it's fake. It's like trickception. Number 2 on this list is the last line of Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. It is a very famous last line that basically, I think even if you haven't read this book, you know the last line, and you might not even realize it's the last line because this isn't told really in linear order by any stretch of the imagination. Yet what is any ocean but a multitude of drops? Like I said, really famous last line. Pretty much everybody knows it, especially at least if they've seen the movie. And this is a book that is essentially all about reincarnation and how we treat others. So that line is in response to another one that says, you know, you'll be nothing more than a single drop in a limitless ocean. And so when someone says, well, what is any ocean but a multitude of drops? It says, it doesn't matter how many people I'm surrounded by, what I do affects people. And Therefore, you have to be careful how you treat people at times. And it's just such a lovely sentiment. Beautiful sentiment. Totally love it. Number 1 on this list comes from one of my favorite books of all time, and that is The Book Thief. When we did our top 5 favorite quotes from books, pretty sure this was my number 1. So, of course, it is my number 1 favorite last line, and it is the ever classic, "I am haunted by humans." Such a beautiful and brutal last line, which really sums up Death, who's been our narrator for the entirety of the story and was basically the number 1 reason I loved this book so much. It was the narrator. And the fact that we got a Death who is simultaneously in awe of and petrified by humans. He sees them at their best and at their worst, and so I love that at the end the only word for it is that he's haunted by them, and that is why he felt the need to tell the story of Liesel Meminger and of Himmel Street and everything else that occurs in this. Alright, but that is it for me this week, you guys, and so until next week's Top 5 Wednesday. Cheers.